Greetings and welcome to the broadcast. I'm your host. This is Prison News for August 2017, where we offer you a day's worth of prison reports that prove Jesus Christ really was right. First up, we're going to have segments of the past today, where we're going to talk about the last words of many people, historical figures, before they passed on this earth into the presence or wherever they go. This is entitled Last Hours on Earth of the noted French infidel Voltaire. When Voltaire felt the stroke that he realized must terminate in death, he was overpowered with remorse. He at once sent for the priest and wanted to be, quote, reconciled with the church, unquote. His infidel flatterers hastened to his chamber to prevent his recantation, but it was only to witness his ignominy and their own. He cursed them to their faces, and his distress was increased by their presence. He repeatedly and loudly exclaimed, "Begone! It is you that have brought me to my present condition. Leave me, I say, begone! What a wretched glory is this, which you have produced to me!" Hoping to allay his anguish by a written recantation, he had it prepared, signed it, and saw it witnessed, but it was all unavailing. For 2 months he was tortured with such an agony as led him at times to gnash his teeth in impotent rage against God and man. At other times, in plaintive accents, he would plead, "O Christ! O Lord Jesus!" Then, turning his face, he would cry out, "I must die, abandoned of God and of men." As he drew near, his condition became so frightful that his infidel associates were afraid to approach his bedside. Still, they guarded the door that others might not know how awful an infidel was compelled to die. Even his nurse repeatedly said, "For all the wealth in Europe, I will never again see an infidel die like this." It was a scene of horror that lies beyond all exaggeration. Such is the well-attested end of one who had a natural sovereignty of intellect, excellent education, great wealth, and much earthly honor. We may all well exclaim with Balsam, "Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my last end be like his." Now, this was taken from an old book called The Contrast Between Infidelity and Christianity, part of our segment here of the last words of people on earth. Next. This is entitled The Dying Words of Samuel Hick. Many of our readers no doubt have heard of Sammy Hick, the village blacksmith. His eccentricities and devotion to God are widely known, not only in England, his native land, but in other countries as well. His biographer says, in 1825, Mr. Hick gave up business and devoted the remainder of his days to the work of the Lord. Everywhere he became very popular. In London, he drew crowds to hear him, and he was the means of doing much good. In speaking in the pulpit or on the platform, he was loud and vehement. On warming up with his subject, he was given to much gesticulation and stamping, making the platform tremble under him. In fact, on one occasion, he stamped the platform down, just at the moment of applying his subject, says Reverend J. Everett, and saying, "Thus it was that the prophet went." That part of the platform on which he stood gave way, and he instantly disappeared. Fortunately, no injury was done. And now the time for his dissolution drew near. About a month before he died, he told his friends he was, quote, going home. He wished Mr. Dawson to preach his funeral sermon from Isaiah 48:18. He also desired that his death should be advertised in the Leeds paper, and that a sack of meal should be baked into bread and 2 cheeses purchased for the use of those who came to witness the interment. "My friends will all come," said he. "There will be 1,000 people at my funeral." By Martha's desire, however, Mr. Dawson succeeded in persuading him off. Thus, baking and cheese purchasing businesses, especially as its means were so small. That dry, hearty humor to which he was so much given showed itself even in his last hours. A friend who prayed with him in his last illness asked the Lord to, quote, make his bed in his affliction. "Yes," responded Sammy, "and shake it well, Lord." Remembering that the stairs were narrow and the windows of the small room, he said to those about him, "As soon as I die, You must take the body down and lay it out, for you will not be able to get the coffin either downstairs or out of the windows. Then, after singing, I'll praise my Maker while I have breath, and when my voice is lost in death, praise shall employ my nobler powers. He said faintly, I'm going. Get the sheets ready. And on Monday at 11 p.m., November 9th, 1829, in the 71st year of his age, he took his departure. On the following Sunday, he was buried in Abbotsford churchyard, and about 1,000 persons attended the funeral, many of whom, after taking their last look at the coffin, turned away exclaiming, if ever there was a good man, Sammy Hick was one. This is taken from an excerpt from Life Stories of Remarkable Preachers. Folks, are you beginning to see, if those of you who's followed us here on the Spreaker broadcast, this is more or less a prison type, not a prison ministry, this is basically prison reports, but once in a while we take kind of a flight of fancy, we get some old books, talk about the difference between right and wrong, between the way that Jesus Christ came and taught to live and to die, and what happens when you're on that deathbed, and the way others say, such as Voltaire, I don't believe in God, I'm not going to take it, I'm going to do this, that, and the other, and they die a maddening death. With stories like this, you can actually preach Christ without even having a Bible, just these stories alone. Let's go ahead and see if we can find one, maybe two more. Here's one about 200 years old called, I Can See the Old Devil Here on the Bed with Me. There lived at one time in our neighborhood a man whom we shall call Mr. B. He was intelligent, lively, a good conversationalist, and had many friends. But Mr. B loved tobacco and strong drink and was not friendly to Christianity. He would not attend church and would laugh and make fun of religion. And some of his neighbors he would call Deacon so-and-so for fun. But Mr. B was growing old. His head was frosted over with many winters, and he had long since passed his 80 years and 10. At the close of a wintry day in a blinding snowstorm, a neighbor called at our home saying, Mr. B wished to see my husband. Knowing Mr. B was ill, my husband was soon on his way. On entering the sick room, he asked what he wished of him. He replied, Oh, I want you to pray for me. Shall I not read a chapter from the Bible to you first? Was asked. He assented. The chapter selected was the 5th of John. While reading, Mr. B would say, I can see the old devil here on the bed with me. He takes away everything from me as fast as you read it to me. There are little ones on each side of me that catch your words and take them away. After reading, prayer was offered for him, and he was told to pray for himself. He says, I've prayed for 2 days and nights, and can get no answer. I can shed tears over a corpse, but not over this Jesus. I can't shed a tear. It's too late. It's too late. 25 years ago, at a camp meeting held near my home, was the time that I ought to have given my heart to Jesus. Oh, he cried. See the steam coming up. The river's rising higher and higher. Soon it will be over me and I'll be gone. The room was filled with companions of the other days, and not a word was spoken by any of them. Fear seemed to have taken hold of them, and some of them said, I will never used to believe in hell before now, but boy, now I really do. Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Mr. B lived a short time after this, and then died as he had lived, a stranger to Jesus, with no interest in his cleansing blood. Next. The advice of Ethan Allen, the noted infidel, to his dying daughter. Though the following biographical note may be familiar to some, it may yet be useful to many. Ethan Allen was a professed infidel. He wrote a book against the divinity of our blessed Lord. His wife was a Christian, earnest, cheerful, and devoted. She died early, leaving an only daughter behind who became the idol of her father. She was a fragile, sensitive child and entwined herself about the rugged nature of her sire, as the vine entwines itself about the knotty and gnarled limbs of the oak. Consumption marked this fair girl for its own. and she wasted away day by day until even the grasshopper became a burden. One day her father came into her room and sat down by her bedside. He looked at her broken little body, withered limbs. He took her hand. Looking her father squarely in the face, she took his hand and said, "My dear father, I'm going to die." "Oh, no, my child, oh, no, the spring is coming, and with their birds and their breezes and the bloom, your pale cheeks will blush with health." "No, the doctor was here today. I felt I was nearing the grave, and I asked him to tell me plainly what I had to do, what I needed to expect. I told him it was going to be a great thing to exchange words, and I don't want to be deceived about myself. If I'm going to die, I have to make some preparations. He told me my disease was beyond human skill, that a few more suns would rise and set, and then I would be born to my burial. You will bury me, Father, by the side of my mother, for that was her dying request. But, Father, you and Mother did not agree on religion. Mother often spoke to me of the blessed Savior who died for us all. She used to pray for both you and me that the Savior might be our friend, and that we might see him in all his glory, our Savior who sits on the throne. I don't feel I can go through this dark valley, Father, by the shadow with his death myself. Now, tell me, Father, tell me, who shall I follow, you or Mother? Shall I reject Christ, as you have taught me, or shall I accept him, as he was my mother's friend in the hour of her great sorrow?" There was an honest heart beneath that rough exterior. The old man broke and shed tears, and he nearly choked as he tried to get out the utterance of an old soldier. "My child, cling to your mother's Savior. She was right. I'll try to follow you to that blessed abode." A serene smile spread over the face of the dying girl, and who can doubt that there is now an unbroken family in heaven? Well, folks, that's the end of this episode. I want to thank you for stopping by Prison News. You know, the Bible is full of people and families dying. More than just one person in the family dies. It happens all the time. I don't mean just Cain and Abel. Only one of those guys went. But, boy, you have some things, some situations of people getting wiped out. Massive things going on wrong. You've got Jonathan and his father, Saul, and many things like that. So let's think about you here for a minute. If you've understood what's been read here, and if you're a believer, that's great. Now, if you're not a believer, and you say, "I'm not going to read the Bible, I don't believe in it." Okay, fair enough. You don't believe in the Bible. But do you not believe in hundreds and hundreds of patients laying on gurneys, grasping as hard as they can to that bar on the side, screaming, "Don't let him take me, don't let him take me," on their last few moments here on earth? Or they say, "I see the devil, I see the flames, don't let this thing claw at me." I'm not making this up. I can read. I've got 3 books of this stuff to read to you. If you don't believe me, Google it yourself or go get the book yourself. On the other hand, those who simply have a knowledge of that person called Jesus Christ, that's right, the one that they raised high on a cross, they spread him out wide, they put those nails in, down he went, and then somehow that stone got rolled away. Don't ask me how, but it got rolled away, believe me. Now he's up in heaven. Do you believe that? Do you believe it? So, Anthony and Cleopatra and Jesus Christ lived almost the same time, within 20 or 30 years of one another. These are historical people I'm talking about. Anyway, then Jesus goes back to heaven, sitting on the right hand of the throne up there, and he's telling you right now, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and believe on me. I want to take you to heaven. I want you to come up here with me. Just believe like the thief on the cross, like that little girl. "Father, who do I follow? Jesus Christ, like Mom did? Or do I reject Christ like you?" And the old man crack, old Ethan Allen, we even have some furniture named after that guy. Why don't you go ahead and say yes to Jesus Christ right now? Again, what are you waiting for? Doesn't cost you any money. Lord bless, take care, and bye for now.